So with that in mind, course or not, would you care to tell us about your favorite SLICE project? SLICE being service learning slash community engagement. So SLICE is the acronym I use. You be willing, Ginny? Favorite SLICE project?
Sure. So I guess for my favorite project, I'll go with what kind of started me with service learning to begin with, which is a project where I've had our microbiology students partner up with local elementary schools, and they went into classrooms. We did kindergarten a good bit, but we've gone all the way up through fourth grade, and they basically taught lessons to the kids. And of course, this was pre-COVID, but they talked about how to wash your hands, and it was hands-on, so we took in some glow-in-the-dark lotion, and the kids had to put this all over themselves and then wash their hands, and they were positive they had gotten it all off. And then we shine lights, and you could see it, their hands are just lighting up, and they're like, oh, gross, I can't believe I didn't do it. So we talked about hand washing, water microbes, that most of them are good for us, and the kids really loved having somebody other than their teacher in the classroom, cool college kids, but they also really learned from it, I think. And then our students, they like to get out of the classroom from just me lecturing for a day. They had to learn. If you've ever had to teach something that's kind of complicated to a 5-year-old, you really have to understand it really well to be able to put it on that level. So I think it helped kind of, for our students, it helped them understand the material better to be able to explain it to a 5 or 6-year-old. And I even had some students who were like, gosh, I'm kind of interested in teaching science now. So it even made them think about career. So I would say that was my favorite project, because it's the one I've probably done the most, where the students are teachers basically.
Awesome. Thank you, Ginny. Tasha, you're next in rotation.
So logistically, I think I handle service learning differently than most everyone else does, because my students select their own service learning experience from a list of possibilities and contacts that I provide. And I typically try to work with the students either individually or maybe in pairs and small groups to help them, decide where they want to kind of wade in the water of community engagement based on their discipline, their major, or their personal passions. So I have tons of really exciting stories and anecdotes, but my favorite project is in my digital storytelling class, when students work with local community agencies. And I'll just give one example. I had a student who partnered with a pregnancy center in her hometown of Union. But in that class, their goal is at the end of their service learning to create a digital story telling the story of that agency or organization and sharing their mission. And I just remember that her video was incredibly moving, and it was professional, and it just really did a good job expressing the mission of the agency. And she was profoundly impacted by the experience. She learned so much, and she did all these great interviews, but I have tons of stories like that. But I love that, having that final product to kind of show how the student grew, and then also how the community organization benefited, the community partner benefited.
That's awesome. Thank you. Michelle, you are next in our rotation.
Okay, it's hard to pick a favorite. I would say the biggest thing that I'm involved in right now that I'm excited to have something that I've built up and is ongoing would have to do with our crime analysis efforts, which have grown. This is something I've been trying to get started for years, and just finally a couple of years ago got going, and it's just growing a lot, and it's providing a lot of really good connection across the entire Upstate region. That I'm super excited about. So a lot of people aren't really familiar with crime analysis. It's not forensics. It's more taking the data, collecting crime data, and making predictions and looking for patterns and looking at where things happen and when things happen. And so there is a lot of critical thinking. There's a lot of problem-solving skills involved, as well as, a few stats and things like that. And so crime analysis is really tied into other evidence-based policing type strategies. And this is just something that really, really resonates with our criminal justice students and our other students. You know, we may all have some different opinions about policing, but I don't know anyone who thinks that we should not use more evidence-based policing decision-making ideas and guidelines, right? And so it's kind of all tied together. So I started the crime analysis classes, which we use towards the end, especially actual data from law enforcement agencies in the Upstate. But then we have now moved into having a whole center that we're opening. So officially it's up and running, even though the physical space, the COVID delayed the furniture, but we're doing the work. And so we have the Upstate Crime Analysis Center now, and it is just allowing us to connect with so many law enforcement agencies across the Upstate, and to have resources there and to collaborate with them on their decision making and their staffing and you know, what stats in their area say and that sort of thing. And it's building the relationships on the community side between the community and the university, but also with the students, because my crime analysis students now are being able to get engaged in that work. I have my first center intern right now, and she's one of my crime analysis graduates. And so it's really allowing us to put so many moving pieces together that it's hard to name that project, but it's really paying off in those connections that we have built up over time. So that's what I'm really excited about right now.
That is exciting. That's and now I'm kind of wishing that I would have jumped in after Ginny and Tasha's things, just to reinforce a couple of things. Michelle didn't use the word reciprocity, but what she's doing is so very two-sided, right? The university and our students benefit hugely. The community benefits hugely, and absolutely the same with Tasha's and the same with Ginny's. That's one of the core things in service learning, is that we want, like I was guilty of saying things we do for the community, and we don't want to be unidirectional. We want it to be both, where there's benefit to our students and to our campus, but there's benefit in our community, and I think that's really evident in the things that all three of you are doing. So exciting.